today I have a review for you on these LA Girl Blush Collection palettes. I have two of them. I have the one in Pinky and I have the one in Glam. In general, there are four. I picked these up at a Fred Meyer in the States and they were about $6.99. They didn't have the two other ones, so I was unable to pick them up, but I figured two would be a good starting point. I have tested these out a little bit over time and I do really enjoy them. In general, I really like the LA Girl brand. I feel like they're really upping their game. I really like a lot of their lip products. I haven't tried too much of their face products, but when I saw these and I've heard a lot of YouTubers talk about them, I definitely knew I needed to pick them up, and they were relatively inexpensive. It's a nice travel-friendly product. I mean, it is a little bit big, but you do get two blushes, a bronzer, and a highlight, so it's nice to travel with it. You're not traveling with like multiple blushes and multiple bronzers and that kind of thing. Overall, I think the pigmentation of these is amazing. I think that for a drugstore and them being relatively under $10, I think that they are super pigmented. You need just one swipe. I think that you just even need to be careful about how pigmented they are. Usually I will use a dual fiber brush just because they are quite pigmented, so just keep that in mind. The only thing that I'm really on a fence about for these products is the fact that sometimes the blendability of them is not there. I will use the bronzer. I mean, I use the bronzer in the Glam palette, which is a little bit deeper tone than the Pinky palette, and I felt like the bronzer just did not blend out. I think that maybe I just picked up too much product on my brush and I put it on my face and it was too bronzed, and then I went to blend it out, and normally I can blend my bronzer out, especially if I've applied too much, but this just would not move, and I don't know if it's just because I didn't have the right sort of moisturizer on underneath. I just found that it didn't blend out really nicely, and like same with the blush, I put it on. I even used a duo fiber brush for the blush, and I felt like it was just really vibrant and it wouldn't really necessarily blend out. So in my recommendation, I would probably first put a little bit of powder on your face, whether you have foundation on or you don't have foundation. Just put like a light dusting of powder on, almost so you can't even see it, and then blend these out, because I felt like they really stuck to my skin, and I don't know if it's just because of the moisturizer I had on it, but they couldn't blend very well. So I would definitely recommend to put powder on first, or just really use a light hand first and then add more, and make sure you are extremely blending as you go, because they can sort of stick to patches and not be the most blendable. But I think that once you kind of get the hang of them and you definitely put that powder down first, they are a really nice quality product. I think that if they were any more expensive than that they are, I probably would not love them as much as I do, because they are a little bit harder to blend out. I think that if they were over $10, they probably wouldn't be worth the price, but because you can sort of work with them and they are quite inexpensive, I would still recommend them. So the first one I have is called Pinky, and it is considerably lighter than the next one I have, which is called Glam. You have almost like an icy or a pink undertone highlighter. You have a warm tone lighter bronzer, and then you have two shades of blush, a lighter one and a deeper one. These are both relatively more on the more cool tone, although the darker one is a little bit more warm cool. It's not necessarily pulling either way, so I think it's a little bit more neutral. Overall, in the ones that I've tried and sort of as I've tested, the bronzer and the blushes don't really have any shimmer to them. The highlights are quite nice. Sometimes when you get highlights in these kind of palettes, they're not as pigmented or not as shimmery, almost like shimmery is not the right word I'm looking for. It's almost like they're not as luminescent as I want them to be. They kind of just look like a powder on the skin, but these are really nice. They really do illuminate the skin. And the next one I have is called Glam. This one's a little bit deeper, so you get deeper blushes. These two are quite warm tone and they're quite deep, especially this one. You get a deeper bronzer. I did use the bronzer a lot, and I think that that's maybe where I went wrong, because it is deeper, so I kind of just put my brush in and went with it, and that's where I kind of lacked the blendability and it was really bronzery on my face. But I think that it is still really nice. You just need to use a light hand with it, especially if you're fair tone like me. And then this highlight is really pretty. It's more of like a beigey highlight, almost a little bit more champagne, but it's still quite light, and I think that a lot of skin tones could use this highlight. Again, this bronzer has no shimmer in it. It's completely matte, and these blushes, this lighter one has like a slight sheen to it, but I really did not see it come apparent on my face at all when I used it, and the darker one is completely matte as well. Overall, if you're on a budget and you want want options with your blushes and you want maybe a palette that has a bronzer and a highlight, I would recommend them. I would just keep in mind the fact that the blendability is something that you kind of need to work with and see what works best with sort of your skin and sort of what you're putting on it. But I think that these are a really nice palette. I was really surprised with the pigmentation on them, and that alone is pretty much the only reason why I would recommend these, because the pigmentation of these is really nice. If you have tried any of these LA Girl palettes, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe so you can see all my upcoming videos. Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned.